would you advise any particular strategies? In other words, does your analysis suggest where the labor movement or socialist or communist political parties or social movements, where they need to go, what they perhaps need to do differently to be more successful contesting this way the system keeps going, so it can't keep using this almost technological, we're just managing, and to expose it for the very one-sided system support that it is? In other words, how do we learn the lessons of your research?
Yes. And this is, I think, important, and it's the very reason why I wrote this book. It's a well-researched book coming from the archive, 10 years almost at the archives, but it's clearly a book that does not hide its militant objective in a way. And I think the whole point here is that the first strategy is to really denaturalize our system and realize that austerity capitalism is the outcome of collective action to foreclose alternatives to capitalism, and thus it can be subverted through collective counteraction. So this already taking history seriously and seeing how our system is actively constructed and how the capital order is constantly protected by the elite, I think has an empowering message in telling us, well, then we can construct a different world. And the first step to break away and construct a different world, I think, is to really understand who the enemies are. And in this sense, all of your enemies. So this is why I think one of the learnings from the book that can be useful for activists and people out there who are interested in changing the world is to realize that, again, let's focus on the fact that austerity capitalism is not very far away from what even the supposed capitalist alternative, meaning Keynesianism, is all about. So I think this is an important element to start get us thinking. And then, of course, last thing I would like to say is that inspiration for the past can help us also open up imagination for the future. L'Ordine Nuovo movement, headed by Gramsci, Togliatti, the workers' councils that were growing in 1919, had some ideas of debunking not just bourgeois institutions, but bourgeois worldviews that were extremely empowering, with the idea of horizontal relations in the production process, which are things that I think if we look at with like fresh eyes, we can really learn from and associate with a lot of the movements that are still happening right now throughout the globe.
Yeah, you remind me of something a good teacher of mine once said. Was a young woman, and she said she's always been struck that in modern economics, labor is understood as negative, as we call it, a disutility, that somehow we are supposed to assume that getting together with other people to produce goods and services is horrible, unpleasant, a drag, something we would never do unless we were compensated by an object we can buy in a store. She said that was the greatest insult to human beings she could think of, and completely crazy, because the whole point of life might be to make work the joy, the relationship building opportunity of a person's lifetime. Given that you're an adult, you're 5 days a week, you're there. You're also telling us to rethink the very logic that this is a technical problem. We're supposed to forget that what capitalists are about is maximizing their profit, and the government policies they support and accept are governed by that principle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The fact that we are reduced to passive consumers, and that in the economic models, the only option the worker really has is to switch from one job to another and, decide whether it's better to labor or to have time for leisure, really shows us the limit, the anthropological limits. The limits that these concepts have, and how they actually have a performative effect, in the sense that ultimately, I think, it does reduce our existence to an existence that is alienating, non-fulfilling. But I'm really certain that we are in a historical moment in which there are plenty of opportunities to shake ourselves up. And the younger generation that I teach at the New School really makes me proud and excited, because I really do see that, given what they see around them, the level of criticism, the level of not just buying into even, the fake progressive rhetoric that tells us that it's enough to increase the wages so that we can buy an extra technology app or like another device that we want. Really, I think we are in an age in which people are getting a sense that we can think bigger and in a way that is more thought-provoking.